Hi, this is Freddie Spencer reporting after the 2017 Qatar MotoGP race. First off, I want to give a shout out to the British talent team and their Scotsman rider, John McPhee. This is a perfect example of when giving the support, the opportunity, and kind of the knowing that this is it. You know, he knows this is a great opportunity for him. And it kind of comes together and the great ride that he had. And so it's great morale boost for him, the team, and everyone. And let's just hope they continue that, because I think that'd be a great story as the year goes on. Now let's move to MotoGP. We know that in practice, it kind of went as we expected, with Vinales getting pole position. Even though qualifying was rained out, I still feel that probably Vinales would have been right there and battling for pole, and probably would have got pole. But, you know, the track conditions were such in practice that we know it's just inconsistent. You know, there's that issue of as the night goes on. In fact, Lorenzo brought up the fact that maybe they should move the race, and other riders talking about this too, move the race a little bit earlier in the evening, right around after dusk. Temperature would be up a little bit, probably be a little more consistent, and less chance of that dramatic change in temperature that happens as they get around about 9:30, 10 o'clock. But as my dad used to say, same conditions for everyone. So you just go out there and do your job, do the best you can do. Now the British rider, Scott Redding, he's continuing that great form that he started in winter testing. And again, another good example of taking advantage of the opportunity. In fact, if you compare him to his teammate, Petrucci, on the 2017 bike, Scott's doing a great job. But I think it's also an example of how the 2015, 2016, even of course 2017 Ducatis are very similar. And one of the things that you like to see when bikes being provided like that to teams and satellite teams is it seems to be bikes, as Batista and them are shown, that you can adapt to many different type riders and their riding styles. And so that's a good indication that Ducati's doing something good with that, and they're providing bikes of a high level, as you can see in the performance of the non-factory riders. That's really good, and that you want to see if bikes are being provided in that respect. But Scott Redding getting 7th place in the race. Again, he said afterwards that he is so appreciative for this opportunity and the team believing in him, and he's a rider that needs that. And let's just hope that he continues on, because obviously he's shown that he has the ability. Cal Crutchlow, the other rider, that really struggled that weekend, or over this weekend. He started out, unfortunately, he had the oil leak in the first practice, and he had to basically get on this other bike. And sometimes, if we believe it kind of happens, which it does, you know, if a weekend starts off badly, it could end up in a positive, but sometimes it kind of carries on. And in this case, when Cal got to the starting line for the race, and with the delay, he was one of 2 riders on the Honda specifically that were running the front tire, hard front tire. And the recommendation was given to him, both him and Marc, who I'll talk about in a second, to make the change. I've been in that situation before, where you get this input, but inside you believe you want to stick to your guns, because it is ultimately you and the motorcycle and the conditions. You are the one that knows when you're on the edge, you're in that situation and pushing at that limit and sensing and feeling everything, what you need to be able to have that confidence to maintain that performance. And I think Cal, he talked about it afterwards, that he should have stuck to his guns, and because he knew he should have kept that hard front tire, but he made that change, and he paid the price. He had the crash, unfortunately, and then he picked the bike back up to continue on. The throttle stuck because there was mud on the handlebar and the grip, and he had the second crash. And so unfortunately that bad luck kind of started in the weekend with the oil leak, continued on for him through the weekend. And let's just hope, and I believe that, as he said, he felt he could maybe finish in the top 5, and he probably could have, that it'll turn around when he gets to Argentina. Next rider is Marc Marquez on the factory Honda. Now Marc has talked about their struggle in acceleration. It's one of the reasons why him and Cal are using that hard front, is trying to compensate for that lack of exit speed by increasing their entry speed. And they need that extra stability. And again, Marc got that same information, recommendation, and he went to the medium front. Marc got a great start, and he's an incredibly talented racer, three-time MotoGP world champion. And so he was working around the problems in the beginning of the race, but he would have felt that it was going to be difficult. He made the smart choice, which is not to push it and take a chance of crashing, but to get those fourth place points, because he knows the championship is long. And he learned that lesson last year by making that decision, as we all do when we're in that situation, is do I keep pushing or do I back off a little bit and be there to fight another day, get the best points that I can in this race? And he did that, which was a smart choice. Now, if we look at the factory Ducatis, we talked about Scott Redding, the great performance he did. Dovizioso, what a great ride. If you look at the performance of him and his teammate, Jorge Lorenzo, the difference of how they utilized and took advantage of the opportunity, the kind of unsure conditions. But Dovizioso, who's finished second there these last years, he was second again. But he really had a great race. And it was probably surprising a lot of people, a little bit to me, that when Vinales did get up there, and same thing with Marc, that he fought back each time. And it looked like that he might have a chance to win the race. But he took advantage of every opportunity that he had. And it was smart. And that's what I would have done too, when he put on at the last moment. A good example of kind of trusting your instinct. And he went to the soft rear tire when he saw the race was delayed 35 minutes. I would have done the same thing. And just trusted my ability to be able to kind of pace myself and get a good start, see how those first 5 laps would go, and then so forth. And he did that. And you could see he was right there at the very end. Now his teammate Jorge Lorenzo, what a disappointment. We know the struggles. We talked about that after the testing broadcast, where I talked about him trying to adjust to the conditions of the Ducati and the things it needs on corner entry, using more brake pressure, not to be able to carry quite as much rolling speed to allow the motorcycle then to change direction mid-corner, and then utilize the Ducati's strongest point, which is acceleration and top speed. But he's still struggling with that. And it was really interesting. If you saw in the race, he ran wide and he kind of got back in there in 17th, worked up, but he was just never a factor. And that is how Jorge, it is for him sometimes. You could see his lack of confidence in the way he went about the race and his struggles. And if that's going to be an indicator of how things are going to go, it's going to be a long season for him and the Ducati team. And they've already kind of tamped down some of the expectations. So we'll see where it goes from there. But Dovizioso, there's not as much pressure on him. He went out, great ride, and did a great job. Valentino Rossi. Now, Valentino, practice is not an indicator, as we've seen, of how the race is going to go for him. He goes out there and methodically, in his way, goes about getting the bike working for him. I believe he works probably about 90%, 80 to 90% of what he can do. And he's able then in the race, step it up. Got the bike working as best it possibly could. He goes out and he knows how to manage the race. And what a great performance for him. It's great for MotoGP, and it's an indication of not only what he's able to do, in this case on Sunday evening, but also how good that M1 is in being able to adapt to the conditions. And then his teammate Maverick Vinales. What a great ride for him. In the beginning, it looked like when he was dropping back that he may not be able to run the pace that the top 3 were. But that wasn't the case at all. He was just managing the race because he knew exactly what he could do. And he has taken advantage of that opportunity. If we go back for a second and talk about him and Marc as kids, and then the different paths they took. Marc had kind of everything with Emilio, his manager, who helped him for years and who kind of brought him along, the opportunity of Repsol Honda, team from a very early age. He was the young golden boy, and he took advantage of that. And then Maverick Vinales kind of took a different route stayed in Moto 2, of course won the Moto 3 championship, but his was a little bit different teams and different opportunities. Now is his time. And in the race, he really showed his maturity and his also belief in his ability. And for that, it was a great race for him. And it'd be interesting to see. I can't wait now to see how Marc comes back. Valentino is there. And of course, Vinales, and see if he can continue on. See you next time.